Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Dawn Richard. Dawn, a catalyst for love, has her MA in professional counseling with a specialty in marriage and family systems. She is a transformational love, sex, and relationship coach and host of the Wake Up to Real Love podcast, where she shares stories of struggles and triumphs in love, sex, and relationships, along with expert advice to create more conscious connections. Dawn's vision and mission is that all people practice more kindness, compassion, understanding, acceptance, and forgiveness for both themselves and for each other. And the greatest lesson of all, that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Welcome to the podcast, Dawn.
Thanks for having me, Kimberly. It's so nice to connect with you finally.
Yes, it is. So Dawn and I met each other actually learning how to do podcasting.
Yep.
And we both have podcasts, so it's a lot of fun.
It is. It's been an amazing journey, hasn't it?
Yes, it really has. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about you, where you started out, how you got to where you are today?
It's a long journey, right? So basically, I'll tell you, I'm right now reinventing my life. I just got divorced after 27 years of marriage, and it's sort of ironic because I was a marriage therapist. You know, it's like I could fix a lot of people's relationships, but for some reason I couldn't fix my own. And so my journey has been this. It's really crazy because I've always been fascinated with relationships. My parents actually have a great relationship. They've been married for 57 years, I think. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around every 3 years. And they were the glue that kept our family together, right? And so they inspired me, and I've just always been fascinated about what makes people tick, you know, why they connect, how they stay connected, what makes a good marriage good, what makes a bad marriage bad. And I learned firsthand, unfortunately, about all the things not to do. And so I decided a few years ago that I didn't want to live my life in the relationship that I had because it wasn't fulfilling. I mean, both of us were very conflicted, you know, and we had a lot of struggle, a lot of strife. There was a lot of tension and strife in our marriage. And I grew up in a family that had a lot of peace and a lot of laughter and a lot of fun and a lot of connection and togetherness. And I wasn't really creating that in my own family. You know, I mean, there were certain things that I could, because I have 3 kids. And, you know, we did a lot of things like for them around their sports because they were all involved with sports. But in my marriage, it was not fun. And not that your relationship has to be fun all the time, but there's a feeling when you have a good relationship, it feels light, you feel at peace, it feels easy. You feel sort of expansive and like, you know, that you have a lot of possibilities around you. And that was not the feeling that I was carrying in my own marriage. So 3 years ago, I decided to get divorced, and then it just happened last summer. And I basically, in the last 3 years, I've done a lot of healing work on myself, you know, from trying to overcome all the heartache that I experienced in my marriage. And I have been developing this love, sex, and relationship coaching business. And then with the podcast, that's taken on a whole new life form. It's like, I want to normalize people's struggles because, you know, even as a therapist, I felt a lot of guilt and shame. Like, why can't I fix this? What's the matter with me? I know intellectually, and I help people do this. Why can't I do it myself? And so this has been so incredible how the podcast has just opened up my life by all of these connections that we have made in the podcast program, and connections that you make with your guests. And it's like, I know this is taking on a life of its own, right?
Yes, it really is. Yeah, it changes with every guest that comes on.
It does. It does. So, so I'm excited because my whole world is opened up and I just see pure potential and possibility.
Wow. And it sounds like to me, though, because of what you've gone through, you can understand other people's struggles.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who stay in a relationship way too long, and you can understand why they did that. Everybody has their reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, 27 years, when I told my ex 3 years ago, he said, "You're giving up on us." And I said, after 24 years, I don't think that's giving up. I think it's just making a different choice. And I mean, I struggled because I had actually asked him to get separated or consider getting separated like 12 years ago because we were dealing with a lot of stuff. And we changed the relationship for a little while. And and it was actually, we had a really good relationship for a while. And then we moved to Chicago from Texas, and it just sort of went downhill. And, I kept hoping. We went to therapy numerous times, and with the busyness of life, it's like you just get distracted. And actually I kept saying, I know that people always have challenges in their life, right? They have really usually like one or two big things that they deal with. And I just thought, well, I guess this is just my big thing. And so should I just stay and I'll just live my life? And, because in the rest of my life, I have another job working for an airline. I have great friends. I'm really close to my family, the rest of my kids, all of those things that bring me joy. And this was the one area in my life that wasn't bringing me any joy or sense of satisfaction or fulfillment. And I understand why couples stay together for forever. Couples stay together for their whole lives, and they just accept that this is how it is. And I had to really think about, what do I want to teach my kids?
mm-hmm.
And what kind of life do I want to live? Because it was so hard going from one place to the other, like leaving the home, feeling free and peaceful and joyful, and then coming home and feeling this heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great way to live.
No. And I was just curious, when you got married 27 years ago, did you feel like you were a good match with him, or did you just kind of grow apart? Like, did you grow into different things that you wanted?
No, I actually, it's really fascinating. I feel like people get together in partnerships because you're a mirror for the other person, and you have issues in your life that block you from experiencing love. Ways that you've been hurt growing up, challenges that you've had in the past. And I feel like every couple, they have the capability and possibility of helping the other person heal those things in them. But both people have to be willing to take responsibility for their own emotional stuff. So my ex, he had some issues that he didn't know how to deal with. And I think that I was the perfect person for him to help him overcome them, help him heal, help him experience the kind of love and marriage and family that he desired, because his family, his parents had been divorced, when he was younger. And so his family wasn't necessarily very close, and my family's super close. And so I had all of these great things that I felt like I could offer him, but there was just something blocking that he wouldn't let me in to help, and I don't know if it was because I was a therapist, and I guess, I mean, I have issues too, right? So I could be very judgmental. I could be condescending. I could act like a know-it-all. Well, I learned this in school and you should do this and that. And he's like, I'm not your freaking client. I'm like, I know you're not my client, but I'm trying to help you. And he just would never accept the help. And, you know, and this is the thing about relationships. It's like, you have to help yourself. You have to create your own sense of happiness. You have to process your own emotions. You have to do your own work to overcome those like limiting beliefs you have and the blocks that prevent you from experiencing the intimacy that and connection that you really want. But you have to take that responsibility. And when your partner is not doing that over and over and over and over again, it's exhausting.
Yeah. Yes, it would be. And I'm just curious. So let's say someone's looking for a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard opposites attract, and then I've also heard, well, you want to have several things in common so you can actually get along. Where is it really?
I think it's a crapshoot. Roll the dice. I was just talking to one of my guests the other day, because chemistry is a very strange thing, right? Like, you could see somebody from across the room and go, wow, he's really cute. I wonder what it's like, or I wonder what he's like. And then you meet him and you're like, oh, I don't feel anything.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Right.
And then somebody else you like don't even pay attention to, and then they come and talk to you and you're like, oh, I don't know what this is, but it's something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unexplainable in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I of course, like, I come from a spiritual perspective, so I feel like it's sort of spirit and soul, connections,
Mm-hmm.
heart and soul connections, that there's no logic to it. There's no logic, so you can say opposites attract. Like, there are several examples of opposites attract. Like, one person wants to feel more connected, and the other person generally needs more space, right?
Yes.
So this is one of the paradoxes of relationships, where, hey honey, I'm really missing you. I want to hang out with you. And he's like, you know what? I've had so many things around me all day, responsibilities. I really just need some downtime. And you're like, oh, so how does that work? Right.
Right.
You say, okay, I want to respect your need for space. And then he says, okay, well, once I take my space, then I'm going to honor your need for connection. Mm. And so this is how you go, right? It's this ebb and flow. And I think it's really important that both people honor where the other person is at any given time, because it's not my way or the highway. It's me showing up and sharing with you my experience and my feelings and what's going on for me. Mm-hmm. And you are there to witness me and be a source of support for me. And at the same time, you do the same for me. So, you have your experiences and I'm a witness for you, and I support you and help you through whatever you're going through. Or, we're experiencing something wonderful together and we share it together. Mm-hmm. But it has to be this real deep, this word has come up for me a lot, reverence. Mm-hmm. It's a real reverence for who the other person is, what they're going through, and how they want you to show up for them.
Yeah, I love that word. It feels very good.
Mm-hmm.
And to think of reverencing someone, because I've heard of honoring, but reverence has even a different meaning to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like reverence is more honor seems more like external, like an obligation. Mm-hmm. Whereas reverence is like, I see you and I'm here for you. because I love you. Not because I need you, because I don't need you. You know, I'm perfectly capable of being on my own. But I need you because I love you. I want, you know, I want to be with you.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I was thinking about how relationships are now compared to, like you talked about your parents, they're married for 57 years,
Mm-hmm.
and even when I was getting married for the first time and I have kids that are early 20s,
Uh-huh.
things even from then have changed, just the way people interact and react in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
um and it seems like people sometimes are looking for totally different things than they did even 25 years.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What do you think they're looking for now as compared to 25 years ago?
I think in some ways they're kind of expecting the person to be their everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then and you can't be their everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, take care of the finances, connect with me, spend time with me, but it's just so much for one person or each person to try and provide, where
Mm-hmm.
you talked about, even though your marriage wasn't doing as well, you had your family, your friends, you had those connections.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I see some relationships where they're their sole connection,
That to me is scary.
Yeah.
I follow this really amazing psychotherapist. She's pretty well known. She's done several TED Talks. She's written a couple books. Her name is Esther Perel. And she talks a lot about the modern states of relationships, how, first of all, romantic love is really a relatively new concept. I mean, for generations and lifetimes, they were all arranged marriages. It was basically like, we're going to get our families together because we can till the land and we can, feed more children and we can grow more crops. And so it was an economic business transaction, more or less. So partners probably didn't have any expectations about what the arrangement was, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, we're together and go live your life and I'll go live my life. But in the last century or so is this ideal of romance and, oh, this person is going to fill me up and complete me and all this bull crap, pardon me. It's like, no one completes me. I complete myself, right?
Yes.
And to expect one person to meet all of your needs is ridiculous. This is why we go to work. This is why we have friends. This is why we find support around us. This is why I love to dance. And so this is why I go take dance classes, because this is something that fills me up. What fills you up is not the same thing as what fills me up. And I think we are all built to have lots of different input. This is our experiences, our different experiences add like layers and complexity to who we are. And I don't think that one person should ever try to fulfill it all. I mean, they can't. They just can't. They can't. And so to expect anyone to, you're just being unrealistic and you're setting yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why relationships are changing. I think that's why a lot more divorces are happening, because people are saying, this isn't what I signed up for. And I do, like, I have a problem with people not really trying. They just say, oh, this isn't working. And they're not really exploring, like, they're not facing themselves, like, what's going on in me that's causing some of this. And they're not helping support their partner, to find out how they can work through the triggers and stuff that you have. So I know that some people some people get divorced without ever facing themselves, without ever saying, what was my part in it?
Mm-hmm.
What could I change to make make it a little, what could I have changed to make it a little better? Or what did I need to take responsibility for? Because even in my marriage, there were things that I did that hurt the relationship. And I think a lot of people just like to place blame, which I've done. I'm like, that issue is your issue, and I blame you for that because you never took responsibility for it. And but at the same time, it was like, okay, well, this is my part, and this is something that I have to work on, and I want to show up. I think when you're in relationship with people, you are allowed to be at your worst, and you should also be at your best. A lot of people save their best for everybody else,
Yeah.
and they come home and just dump. That's really, really common. And it's not very nice to your partner.
Mm-mm.
It's like, yes, I want to be here to support you. But I want to have the best of you. I want to witness what I fell in love with. And that was, when I met my partner, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. He has a lot of really, really wonderful qualities. And, but I was usually getting the worst of it, the worst of him. Everybody else would say, oh, he's so great. And I was like, yeah, well, come to my house, because he's not so nice, and that's not okay. I feel like you can be your worst. You can, express your stress and your frustration and your anger and your insecurities and your fears and your vulnerabilities. All of these are pieces that we all share, in humanity. We all share these struggles. But I believe your relationship is a way for you to face yourself and say, what do I need to work on? What do I need to overcome in order to be the best version of myself? Because to the person that I love the most, I should be my most best self.
Yes, I agree. You want to be
Right?
yourself. Yes. But that is true. That happens in a lot of families where, the mom or the dad come home and they've been pleasant all day, and then they just take everything out on the family. And
yeah.
So let's say that I would like to create an intimate relationship with a partner. So, I want that physical intimate relationship and that romantic piece. But then how do you really go deep into intimacy and really support that person and really feel safe with that person?
Well, I think this is the other thing. Safety and security, right? Safety, security, trust, those are all really, really important pieces of a relationship. Intimacy, there's sort of a saying in our field that it's into me see, right? So in true intimacy is being my authentic self and sharing with you all aspects so you can really see me. I should be able to come to my relationship with not having to pretend or hide or wear masks, like we do out in the world. How's everything? Oh, everything's just great. Where, I just came from the house and I just sobbed my eyes out for 3 hours,
Yeah.
So how you cultivate intimacy and how you create a sense of safety and security and trust for your other person is by first starts with you, creating a sense of safety, trust, and security in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't do that for themselves. I think that a lot of people That's that running away from myself. I'm feeling all these things, but I don't want to acknowledge them. That's why people turn to alcohol or drugs or shopping or obsessive exercise, or, you know, basically like disconnecting from what's really going on inside of them, and just avoidance. And so I think that when you're in a relationship with somebody, you have to create that sense of safety, security, and trust within yourself, because when you have it in yourself, the other person can feel it. The other person can feel it, and the other person feels safe. I mean, I would imagine that you experience this with your kids. No matter what they were going through, you still tried to soothe them and say, it's okay, honey. I'm here for you.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that's what I think too, that just allow people to be themselves. I can be myself, you can be yourself. We don't have to worry about covering up or thinking about who we're supposed to be. We can just be ourselves.
yeah. And I think, I don't know, I think there are a lot of cultural messages, societal messages, gender messages about who we should be, how we should show up in the world. But everybody's different. And, you know, the greatest, I think that the greatest gift you can give somebody is allowing them to be who they are. You know, you may not understand, you may not, you know, there are some things that you may not like, or you may not even respect. You can disagree with the people that you love, but you still say, it doesn't matter, I still love you.
Exactly.
And I'm here for you. Like, nothing that you could, this is something that I used to say to two things I used to say to my kids. One was, I love you, and I don't really like you right now.
Yes. I've used that before.
Yeah. I don't really like you right now because I don't really like the way you're acting or the way you're treating me or whatever. Those two can be held simultaneously, right?
Yes.
I love you and I really don't like you.
Yes.
And the other thing is, I don't know what I was going to say now. I think the other thing is, like, you always taking responsibility for how you're showing up, you know? So knowing, and this is what I really wanted to teach the kids, because my ex used to just say a lot of not very helpful things. And then when I told him I wanted to get divorced, he's like, well, I didn't really mean all those things I said. And I was like, after 25 years of hearing the same things that I said were hurtful, now you're going to say you didn't mean them? It's like, no, your words matter. Your actions matter. You know, it's not, you can tell me till you're blue in the face, I love you, I love you, I love you. But if you're constantly doing things that make me doubt that and make me question that and make me think, this is not how a loving person behaves to somebody that they love. You know, this is not being loving. And so that being loving starts with me.
Exactly. And what you allow and don't allow. So, and I was thinking about, as you're talking about, you know, men and women, masculine and feminine, how do you know, they say we're the same, but we're a lot different.
We're not.
We're a lot different.
First of all, he has a penis, I have a vulva. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference.
Yeah, I think, well, this is actually a lot of the work that I do. This is what I've learned. This is, you know, that we all, and I mean, that that example I gave was just heteronormative, right? So they're all combinations of how people show up. And it's what we're really talking about is masculine energies and tendencies and feminine energies and tendencies. Doesn't matter what gender, you show up or what kind of partnership you have. And so masculine is very goal oriented, doing, giving, sort of like the rock and the strength and the protection, and feminine energy is more open and receiving and sort of nurturing and connecting and surrendering, I'll say. So this man is this fortress and the woman is the surrenderer. And you have both of these aspects in yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So the man says, I got this. I'm the doer, right? I'm the doer. I got this. And the woman, and I'm talking, energies, right? The feminine energy says, I trust you. I trust you to take care of me. I trust you that you've got this. And so this is, I think it's a really great analogy. Like a man is a trunk of a tree and the woman is the roots. Like she's the grounding force. Mm-hmm. and the trunk of the tree is the stability and the security and the strength. And then the feminine comes out at the top. She's like this expansive, creative, chaotic sometimes, force of creation, right? Because we literally create life from us or through us, right? And so you have to have both within yourself. You have to provide your own sense of grounding, grounding your roots and staying stable and strong for yourself while allowing your creativity and your expansiveness to happen. And your partner does too. And when you show up for each other, it's this ebb and flow of who's doing what, right? At any given time. It's not one person is only this way and the other person is only this way. I think that people have tendencies, so it's like on a spectrum, and that both of you give and receive equally over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that analogy of the tree. That's really easy to visualize. And, I have found that true of myself, where depending on what relationship we're talking about, whether it be a partner or a friend, sometimes I'm more masculine in the relationship, and sometimes I'm more feminine, and sometimes I'm a mix. And it really depends on the other person and how they're mixing up at the time. Or the situation where, when I go to work, I'm going to be more masculine because I'm in charge. Right. But when I come home, I want to be more feminine because I don't want to be in charge.
I want to just be.
I just want to just be. So, that I love the way you describe that mix and, how we're always ebbing and flowing and changing with whatever's happening.
And I think, I don't know, I haven't done any research, official research, but I do feel like you sort of meet your opposite on that spectrum. Like it's really hard to have two masculine energy people together, always trying to take control and be in charge, right?
Right.
And then it's hard to have two feminine energy people who just want to be and, go with the flow. So I feel, which is another reason why with my ex, because he was super masculine energy and I'm much more feminine energy. And I thought like, oh, this is a really great balance. But it was more like he wasn't flowing back to his feminine. He had a hard time being in his feminine energy. And I think because I've been interviewing a lot of men who run men's groups, And this is a challenge for a lot of men because, you know, they have been, a lot of them have been conditioned. Big boys don't cry, stop being a wuss, you know, anything related to being feminine is a put down. You know, it's not like, wow, it's so great that you're vulnerable. Like, no, quit your crying.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that was really important for me to teach my kids, because I have 2 boys and a girl. And I wanted to show them that it was okay to cry, that it was okay to have their feelings. You know, this was something that my ex was not as comfortable with. It was like, just get over it. And it's like, no, that's not how you, this is why you are how you are, because people told you to get over it, and people told you not to cry, and people told you not to honor your own fears and insecurities and vulnerabilities. It's like, we all have these. So why can't we just be honest about them? Why can't, you know, it's okay if you're feeling vulnerable and afraid, and you're a man. You should. If I'm going to war, you know, they're like certain things. Okay, if I'm going to war, I can't feel vulnerable and afraid on the front line, right? I have to be fully in my masculine in order to show up in the way that I need to show up. But when I'm with a partner and I'm having these inner conflicts and stuff, I need to be able to let down my guard and say, you know what? This really sucks for me. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I feel insecure. I feel vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. And your partner should be able to say, wow, you know, what's going on for you? What is that reminding you of? How can I be a source of support for you right now? This is what a relationship should be. Like, however you show up, I'm your witness and I'm supporting you. And however I show up, you're my witness and you're supporting me, so that we can both grow and evolve and let go of the stuff from the past that's like blocking us, and fully like live in the moment and be okay with ourselves.
So how do you create a relationship that where you can connect, where there's maybe creativity or something to make it exciting, like that lightness you were talking about? How do we get that lightness?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, you know, this Esther Perel, she talks about all of these paradoxes of relationships. So this freedom versus connection, this sense of stability versus risk, you know, or security versus security and the known versus adventure and the unknown. So I feel like people get really lazy, right? And complacent and just operating off of status quo and expecting their partner to do the work or to make it more interesting or to make it more fun or more creative or whatever. It's like, no, what about you? I mean, if anything in this that's going on in the outside world, I'm hoping that it will help people wake up to what's meaningful and valuable to them, what sort of sparks their interest and joy and creativity, because you're being forced to stay at home, right? Yeah. And many people can't work. And so like, what are you interested in? What do you find interesting? What sort of lights you up? What have you thought about exploring that maybe you haven't had the time to explore before? And I'm not just talking about sex. I mean, that could be a part of sex, but it's just about your whole life. How are you living your life? You know, your podcast, The Incredible Life.
Yeah.
Like, are you living the most incredible life that you can live? And if you're not, whose fault is that?
That's right. We all create our own reality, right? I mean, there are things we can't control,
Yes.
and we can't control them. But there are things that we can make choices about. There's a lot of
Yes.
things we can make choices about.
Yes. There are things.
All right. Well,
Okay, good.
um, so Dawn, what in your opinion would make a life that's incredible, amazing, fulfilling for you?
Um, a lot of travel, a lot of dance, because I love to dance, inspiring people. Like this is one of the greatest things about having a podcast. I feel like you meet so many inspiring people, just their own journeys inspire things in me. um, so sort of like a real I'm all about balance. If you couldn't tell, like when I was talking about the masculine and the feminine, it's really about finding this balance that works in your life. And so I really feel like living a balanced life where I have, you know, I need to work, I need to make some money to pay the bills or whatever, but I also am feeling just full, like inspired and creative, like I'm creating various things. Um, I'm, I mean, the most important thing for me, like you talked to me before we started this podcast, is that you're a connector. I'm a connector. Like that's the most important thing in my life. The thing that has brought the most meaning in my entire life are the connections that I've made. So, you know, I feel like we learn so much from each other. We're born, I think we're born to connect, even starting when we were in the womb. We were connected through the umbilical cord, right? In the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are born, it's like we still need that connection and that sense of safety and trust and security, that somebody else provides for you, that hopefully you learn how to provide it for yourself. And I'd love to have a partner to share that with, somebody who brings, somebody that feels safe enough to bring their worst self, but also comes with their best self to say, hey, how can I support you? What kind of adventures can we create together? Like, I feel like this incredible life, the universe offers us so many opportunities and possibilities for things beyond what we can imagine, right? But we need to get out of our own way. Like stop the monkey mind, the limiting beliefs, the limiting thoughts, that sort of keep you stuck either in the now moment or stuck in the past, and really try to open yourself up to anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anything. So not, you can say, I've never tried that. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't, maybe there's some things that I would just say, no, I'm not interested. And that's okay too. But it's like really, really coming to this place where you love and accept yourself wherever you are in any given moment. Like this is an incredible life where I go, I don't wait for one day. I think a lot of people wait for one day, but one day never comes. Oh, I saved my whole life and then I just, whatever.
Right.
It didn't happen. And I don't want to wait for one day. I want to take every day as day one. There are unlimited possibilities and potentials. And what do I want to experience in my life? And, it sounds like you also are sort of that mindset where the universe is unlimited, right?
It's unlimited, and you've said my favorite words, opportunity, possibility, choices.
Uh-huh.
That's why I do what I do, to let people know they have choices, and there's
Yeah.
so much out there They just have to
Mhm.
go out and decide what it is they want and then go get it.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, because a lot of people don't even know what they want, right? And this is something that I've really tried to ingrain in my kids, is that you may think you want something, or something may seem appealing. And so just choose that. You know, there are all sorts of reasons why you could justify not doing it or doing it. Or, you know, people would give you different perspectives. Oh, you shouldn't do that because XYZ, or, oh, well, that sounds like a great idea. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It matters what you feel. You know, if it feels like light and expansive and amazing, then it's for you. If it feels heavy and constricted and yucky, whether it's yucky in your chest, yucky in your stomach, whatever, then it's not for you, right? And so when you live your life like making a choice that you think is the best choice in that moment, and you try it out and you go, yeah, this really doesn't work for me. Well, that's more information. That just means like, okay, well, I know more of what I want because I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
Right? So you like throw those things to the side, and it's more like, okay, well, I think I want this. So let's try this. Oh, okay, I think I want this. Let's try that. And so it's like a constant exploration. I think not exploring and not following opportunities and possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, Dawn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And if people wanted to contact you, like if they wanted to work with you as a therapist, I know you're a coach, you have the podcast. Why don't you tell people what the podcast is, where to find it,
Yeah.
if they want to coach with you, what to do?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Wake Up to Real Love. My name is Dawn, and so my business name is The Awakening with Dawn. And so everything in my life is about waking up. So wake up to real love, wake up to love, wake up to possibilities, wake up to more joy, wake up to real love. You can find it on iTunes and Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. You can find it on lots of platforms. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram as The Awakening with Dawn. You can find me there. I also just started a booking calendar. I'm offering free 30-minute consultation calls to wake up to real love, to find out how I can maybe support people in their journey. I used to have a licensed professional. I used to be a licensed professional counselor when I lived in Texas. But when I moved to Illinois, I had to put it on hold, and then it just expired a couple years ago. So now I'm just calling myself a love, sex, and relationship coach, even though I'm really a therapist, because that's what I do. I mean, I did that even before I got my license. This is, I just like to help people, get through their stuff and start creating this life of their dreams. So I don't think that anything that you dream about, you're given a dream. If you're given a dream, then you're also given the tools to make it come true. And so it's just like, follow your dreams, follow your inspiration. And, this is the beautiful thing about these podcasts too. It's like, you start showing up. You don't know what's going to happen with it. You don't know how it's going to expand or evolve. But that's the same with you. You don't know how you're going to expand and evolve too. So just show up and do something every day, right?
I love that. Show up and do something every day. I think we should end with that. That's great advice. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dawn.
Thanks for having me, Kimberly. It was a pleasure being with you.
Thank you. And we'll talk to everybody again soon.